Hi, Eddie.
Hi,
Good
Reza.
morning. Just want to check firstly on Sandro Tonali, who was substituted last weekend. Is he okay? Will he be available for Fulham?
Yeah, potentially available. We'll have a look at him again today. Don't think it was anything too serious.
You now know that you can't qualify for Europe following the win for Chelsea the other night. So on the final day, what do you hope to get out of the match against Fulham?
I think we hope to continue the upturn in our recent performances, the upturn in our in-possession play. We want to end the season on a real high. It was great to win our last home game. I think that left us all with a really great feeling. So yeah, it's an important match.
And just looking a little bit further ahead, I don't think the club have announced anything yet formally about pre-season, but what can you tell us about how the summer might look, sort of how much time the players will have off, probably an extended break for those who are at the World Cup, and what your plans will be for pre-season when you return?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it will be different with the World Cup. Of course, that will be the big thing going on for a lot of our players. We plan to come back around the 13th of July. So probably a week longer than normal because of the World Cup. We will go away, but I think it'd be Europe. I think that's been well known. We're going to go to Spain and La Manga for, I think, around 10 days. So no huge long flight for the players this time. And I think in line with the World Cup and the travel that those players will do, trying to keep things really simple because we have to make sure the players are in the best physical condition. The World Cup players will get roughly around 3 weeks off depending on when they exit that competition. So hopefully that gives you a steer.
Okay.
Hi, Eddie. Will Asula's come into some really good form at the tail end of the season. Does that give you a bit of sort of food for thought regarding the summer? I mean, I'm guessing for him it's kind of coming around at the wrong time, the end of the season, because he's just got up to speed. Does it give you a little bit of food for thought in terms of the summer and what you may or may not try and do in the transfer window?
Yeah, I think his form's been a great boost for us all, really. I think he's deserved the opportunity, firstly, and then he has to try and take that, and he has. I think he's done really well towards the end of the season. I think it helps to have players in form, and especially someone of his age and profile. He's only going to get better. The more games he plays, the more training he has with us. So we're really pleased with his recent return.
You've said before as well that it could be should be a big summer for Newcastle. How different could the team look, do you think, at the start of next season compared to the way we see it just now finishing this season?
Yeah, I think I've said, Keith, that it's difficult to predict. It's difficult to sit here now and say, I think the team will look like this. I think we need to be ready to twist and turn depending on what happens. The aim would be to come back with a stronger squad. But that's the plan in every transfer window. We certainly want a smoother one than we had last summer. I think we're all set up to have that and execute that. But as I say, until the reality hits, we don't quite know.
And on Fabian, has anything changed from last week? I know you said you'd maybe have a discussion with him this week. Has there been any change at all?
Yeah, I've had a few discussions with Fabi. Discussions are now with Ross and his agent, and we hope to come to a successful conclusion.
Thanks, Eddie. Cheers.
Andy?
Come on, Eddie. Obviously, the World Cup announcement is this morning. I'm not going to ask you directly about any players, but how there's going to be players that make it, and there's going to be players that don't make it into the squad. How do you deal with that, with the players that do, with the players that don't?
Yeah, I think it's been ongoing throughout the season, the World Cup, in the back of the players' minds. I mean, we've got a lot of players potentially involved, and I think they're human beings that would have been sort of there in the background. Obviously, they hope to make the squad. They hope to be in the best physical condition at that time to do well in that competition, while then trying to navigate all the games and competitions that we've been in. So I think it's been a big mental load for all the players. I think the only way you can deal with that is through conversations, is communication, is checking, obviously, the ones that don't make it, how they are and what support they need, and then the ones that do will be relatively easy to deal with. They'll be obviously in a really good place. We have tried to navigate our way through towards the end of the season and looking after respective players while still trying to put the strongest team on the pitch.
You're talking about Will Asula there and the fantastic form that he's been in these last 6 or 7 games in particular. How close is Will to reaching, it's a word that's been talked about a lot, is reaching his potential now? And how close do you think we're going to get to see that next season from him when he's even more developed?
Yeah, I think it'll be an ongoing process, Andy. I think he's a really good age. He's got lots of stuff to continue to work on, which we will obviously do with him. And then there's a lot of areas for us that we can, untapped areas we can develop, and we can really start work on that. And yeah, I think that the ceiling in his development is really high because he can do a little bit of everything, and he has the raw ingredients. He has the physical profile to be a real competitor, I think, at this level.
Just finally, I know you're always looking to put more wood on the fire, but it's at the end of a 58-game gruelling season. Is there a small part of you that's just looking forward to having a week off and resting and relaxing with the family or not?
Yeah, I don't do that very well. Anyone that knows me well will say I don't relax well. I don't suddenly hit this point and then get the book out and sit in the sun lounger. So I'm an active person anyway. I'm always thinking of what's next. So of course there'll be a period of doing different things, but the workload and the commitment to the job can never go, because now there's another thing to focus on.
Thanks, Andy. Mark?
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
How much of a challenge is it not knowing how big a rebuild is going to be required in the summer, particularly with the complication of the World Cup?
Yeah, but I think you've got to plan for every scenario. I think from my perspective, I think you've got to... You can't just think one thing is going to happen. You've got to think, what if this happens, and then what would our reaction be? So I think, as I say, predicting things is very difficult, but having ideas of where you'll go, depending on what happens. I mean, nothing could happen. It could be quite a slow market because of the World Cup. Everything could be quite stagnant and things move quite late. So in terms of where we will be, the aim is to come out with a stronger squad, a tighter squad, a squad ready to fight next season for the football club. So as long as we have that, I'll be happy.
And we've talked about no Europe, and that was made statistically impossible in the week with the Chelsea result. But no European games. We've seen what Manchester United have done with no European games. So you can get a positive out of it.
I think you have to look at that, because there's no point being negative for too long. I think you've got to come out with a clear head, and you've got to go, right, this is the way forward. So we've done well with no European games in the Premier League when we've had that scenario. I think it makes things a little bit simpler for us and what our aims are, and then we have to go about achieving it.
And a good result at Fulham, and possibly 3 Newcastle players in the England World Cup squad. Would that just put a little bit of a positive at the end of a sort of very up and down season?
Yeah, I think there's been huge ups and downs, as you say, lots of sways of momentum, lots of different feelings. Of course, individually for the players, we hope whoever goes to the World Cup has a great experience and comes back in a really positive frame of mind.
And I know it hasn't happened yet, but if Dan Burn was in the England squad, that's just another football fairy tale that I suppose reflects or everybody can get satisfaction from.
Well, I think the whole Dan Burn career story really is a great example to any young player of what you can achieve. He's had several setbacks, difficult moments, points in his career where he's been at crossroads, and he's fought back with an unbelievable attitude and unbelievable outlook to life, and he's got rewarded for that. And I've seen, obviously, very very close quarters what he's given to us, to the team, and now he's got the individual recognition. Nothing pleases me more to see that.
Thanks, Mark. Go to Damien.
Hi, Eddie. You spoke last week about how challenging the season had been. To what extent do you think the difficulties you've had go back to the decision to sell Alexei Isak, the timing of that and everything that surrounded that?
Yeah, I don't think it was just that one moment, but I can see why you sort of picked that one moment. It was a pivotal time for us because Alex was such an important player. No other player like him in world football, I don't think, and that's why he went for the transfer fee that he did. So obviously losing him was going to be very, very difficult for us to find a new team. But that was a challenge that we had to do, and we had to do it in a really short period of time before the transfer window shut. So I don't think you can ever look at one moment or look for excuses or look to blame anything or anyone. It's just the situation that it was, and we had to try and make the best of that moment. But I think the summer as a whole was very, very difficult for us. Of course, we had no sporting director, no chief executive. That left a big hole for us. And And yeah, I think we're in a lot better position. There's no point looking back. I think we're in a lot better position now to hopefully execute what we need to do.
We've got Luke and then Lee, please.
Morning. It's fair to say there's been a certain amount of criticism about your recruitment last summer, but is sort of the example of Will Asula, who's taken maybe 2 years to show the player he can be, and also we really started to see flashes from Jacob Ramsey. I know you always talk about time, but are you confident that the players you signed last summer will have good careers here?
Yeah, I am. I think you have to look at every individual player. Sorry, you have to look at every player individually. So when you go back to Will Asula, the profile of Will Asula's signing was very much for development. And I know no one in this room really likes to hear that, because that means the player has to work away from the spotlight. He has to improve his game. You'll ask me endless questions about him, and I'll say, no, he's doing well, he's on track. But there's a frustration because people want to see instant results. Now, Will's had to do an incredible amount of work on all aspects of his game, on not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, to make him the player that he is today. And we still feel there's a lot more to come in that respect. The development doesn't stop. But he was obviously on transfer fee lower. We took him from a championship club and he wasn't playing regularly. So I think you do the maths and you know that there's going to be a period of time. 2 years of endless work, and now he's looking like a really important player for us. So every player, and then you can look at the signings from last summer, and you can make an individual case why all of those players hopefully will be better next year. And then in time, you make a decision whether they're good signings or bad signings. I'll let you do that. But, from our perspective, we believe in them all. But I do think the last thing to add to that is not every signing you make will be successful. That comes with every football club, with every deal that you do. You hope they are. But just by doing the maths, not everyone can play in the team. So, but we try to get more right than we get wrong.
Lee?
Eddie, just picking up on what you said there about July 13th training camp, I guess that gives you a good sort of window of opportunity to get people in at the start of the bulk of the work. I know the World Cup will make that difficult, but you've got a big opportunity to get players done and dusted.
Yeah, I think the July the 13th is when they come back, and then I think the training camp, I'm not sure on the exact date actually, Lee. But yeah, I think I say every year, I think I've said it every time, we'd love to get players through the door early so they can do pre-season from day one if they're not at the World Cup, and for obvious reasons, so they can be acclimatised, so we can start our work, so they feel part of the team. I think last summer was difficult for us in that respect. A lot of players were coming in late, and then the season's starting and you're trying to do that work while the games are happening, so that was a challenge for us.
A quick one on Fabian. You obviously feel he's still got a lot to offer, given you're saying it's going to be successful, hopefully.
Well, fingers crossed, yeah. We want Fabian to stay. I think he's got a lot to offer. I think we've missed him since he's been injured. We've missed his distribution, and his passing from deep's been a big miss for us, the way he accelerates our attacks. We wouldn't be keeping anyone that we didn't feel could help the team. I think Fabian's been unbelievable for us. I think until it's signed, it's not done. But I still feel he has a lot to offer.
Next, we'll go Gary, Sean, and then Kieran on this side, please.
Morning, Eddie. There's been a lot of talk on Anthony Gordon over recent weeks. Last week on the lap of honour, he kind of looked an isolated figure. Do you expect this to be his last game? And if so, what sort of send-off and how should he be remembered by the fans?
That's a difficult one for me to comment on in terms of how he should be remembered, because that's us almost saying that he is going. And there's no guarantee. We don't know at this moment whether it will be his last game. Obviously, I've picked a team, as I've said many times, that in the last few weeks that's been performing well. Anthony's come back from injury. He's been great around the group. He's been absolutely part of the team, so there's been no issues. So let's see what happens. I think the right time to give an answer to that question will be if he does leave, and then I'll obviously discuss that with you.
Sean?
Morning, Eddie. Obviously, you've spoken about the changing system over the last couple of weeks. Does that change the transfer priorities in the summer in terms of you might be recruiting for different positions that you may not have necessarily been sort of discussing prior to that system change?
No, not really, because the system change is minimal. It's not a huge thing. In most phases of the game, we're still the same. Same players doing the same things that they've always done in the same positions. It's just a minimal tweak really off the ball more than on the ball. So, it doesn't change our recruitment at all.
Kieran?
Morning. What would your pitch be to prospective signings at this stage of the project and after the up and downs of this season?
My pitches are usually around not necessarily the team's success, because you can never guarantee that. It's more about how we work and what we do and what we can offer the players. I think we can offer the players, whoever comes here, is coaching, development, improvement. And every player that I've ever spoke to wants all of those things. They want to feel like they're on a journey to becoming a better player, and that's regardless of age. So I think the team and the club things, that I think that they don't really change. There's big ambitions here. The club wants to be hugely successful, but I have to navigate my way through that and to how we're going to do it and the processes behind it. And for me, coaching and development of players is at the forefront of that.
Okay, we'll go Dom and then Jordan to wrap up this section, please.
Morning, Eddie. Just following on from that, when it comes to your squad, the players you recruit in the summer, what are your non-negotiables in terms of a profile? What is required from the player to give yourselves the best chance of improving the squad and breaking back into those European places next season?
I think I could spend hours talking to you about the footballers aspect and what they need to do. I think the big thing for me is they taking all that aside, because you haven't got that time and we haven't got that time right now, is they have to want to come and play for this great football club. That's number one. And in my experience, if the player has any doubt and isn't totally sure this is the right place for them, it doesn't work. If I look back at the most successful signings we've had here, every player has been desperate to come and put that black and white shirt on. So I think take apart all the other things. That is number one for me, and the passion and the desire to come and play for the club sometimes defines the transfer.
Thanks, Dom. Jordan?
Yeah, just following on from that, but what type of profile of player are you targeting this summer?
I thought it was going to be the same question.
Sort of different.
Are you talking position?
I suppose just age, maybe looking at it, sort of younger players to develop or sort of ready-made.
Tell us who you're signing, Eddie.
Yeah, I know, yes. I was going to say, I think it depends on the position. I don't think there's one. I know everyone goes crazy, we're going to have a change of recruitment policy. I don't see that. It's very much on the position that we need. And then you make a decision on what type of profile that you need in terms of age, I'm talking here. Do you need someone to slip behind someone and develop them? Do you need someone to come in and play from minute one? All those things come into how you build the profile of the player that you want. So I don't think there's one strategy. Of course, financially has an impact as well. So if you don't have a huge budget to spend on that position, then naturally you're not necessarily going to get a starting player. So I know everyone wants sort of hard and fast rules on recruitment, but it doesn't work like that in my opinion.